right, guys. So today we have an awesome guest with us. It's Sean Labute. He is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, third degree black belt in K1 karate,
Yep.
also a Muay Thai instructor and a mixed martial arts coach. How are you doing today, Sean? Thanks so much for being on board.
Great. It's fabulous. It's a pleasure to and an honor to be on your show.
And I really so much appreciate myself and Sean actually met once when he came to St. Lucia and we just hit
Yes.
it off. He's an amazing guy. He's done a lot of things
Thanks.
in the martial arts community and a lot of things back home in Canada.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Really, he really loved his stuff. So Sean, tell me a little bit about yourself. What
hmm
made you start martial arts? What age? What was your
hmm
first martial art? But let's start off with how you started.
So basically, I always tell my students that, especially my young ones, to go back and watch the first Karate Kid. When I went to see that, I'm that old. I went to see that at the movies. I was in grade six, and when I came out of that movie, I said I want to do that. And I would not let anything stop me. I went to my father. I was very small. I was a bullied kid, so he thought it was a great idea. He didn't even know it existed. Um, I bounced around a couple, they were pseudo karate schools when at a very young age, at 12, 13 years old. And I actually bumped into my full contact coach, Robert Markovich, in, I think it was 87 or 88. That's when I started full contact karate. I started competing under him too, and doing some boxing on the side, starting to kickbox myself. Before there was really anything really organized. We live very close. I'm about 10 minutes, 15 minutes from the Detroit border. So a lot of my competition was in Detroit. They had much more available. So, some of the fighting that I did do and in 95, I earned a black belt in Ishinru Karate, which is a full contact K1 style. I started to compete under that for quite a while. And then I ended up running into MMA kind of blindly. Obviously, the guys back in the day in the early '90s, mid '90s, the exposure to the UFC, the first UFC. I was a striker, born
Mhm.
through and through. I didn't realize that I was short, so reach was an issue. There was no real grappling outside of wrestling, and I was not a big fan of the singlet at the time.
Mhm.
So I tried it, but I wasn't really a grappler at the time, and I just continued with my kickboxing. And I continue to do that. Once MMA came out and the UFC came out, I did some full contact competitions, which you could loosely say were MMA because they were organized competitions, but it was very style for style, and there was real no grappling at the time, right?
Mhm.
So you didn't really have the option of working with wrestlers or grapplers, especially if you're from a striking based city like we were. There was kickboxing, there was boxing, and like I said, there was some wrestling that I just wasn't interested at the time.
Mhm.
Um, so I did some competitions that way. Continued to keep competing kickboxing and karate and full contact karate. I even did some just to get a good feel for movement, because I do think that some of the sport striking has a lot of value, and I've actually incorporated a lot of the movement. Some of take people like Anderson Silva and
Yeah.
Michael Venom Page and people like that who just slick movement through and through. I don't. I like to. I'm a fusion. You know what I mean? I'm mostly Muay Thai, but like I said, my origination is American style kickboxing. I competed in that for a while, and then I did end up running into a couple grapplers, which gave me some trouble. So I decided to pick up Brazilian Jiu Jitsu formally. I did like nuts and bolts stuff in the
Yeah.
early 2000s. But in 2010, I actually joined a club and started ranked Brazilian Jiu Jitsu under the Kaiki Jiu Jitsu affiliation.
Mm-hmm.
That's one of the original 10 Gracie black belt
Ah,
professors. So Elio Enrique, he was one of the only non Gracie black belts from the original 10 or 20 that were promoted, I think, when they started the system. Anyway, I was under him for quite a while, and a local instructor that was kind of under the affiliation. We had strong ties to Michigan.
mm-hmm.
Um, it was specifically a school by the name of Warrior Way and a school by the name of Final Round Mixed Martial Arts. Um, the guy who was training me was actually a Detroit police officer,
Okay.
and he kind of introduced me to the Michigan component. Really nice guys. I learned a lot from them. All very, very high end world champions. Both schools have produced UFC level
Brothers,
fighters.
yeah.
People like Austin Bashi and Miles Jury, if you want to go back a bit. And there are a few other people that they've got in through the UFC. But really great schools, and I learned a lot. And then I ended up meeting a just an amazing guy by the name of Métis Jadipatak, who is my Ajarn or my senior crew.
Yeah.
It's he's at a different level. So there's five, sorry, there's three that I know of, five-time world champions,
Champions.
people that have won the Lumpity Stadium Championship more than four times, and he's one of them.
Wow.
He immigrated to the United States to Michigan and started teaching, I believe, under the Warrior Way School, and opened his own school, Final Round, which once my business partner at the time was Detroit Police. That's where he got his training, so that's how I kind of transitioned to working with those guys. But Métis is considered one of the 10 best southpaw kickers in all of Muay Thai. He's considered
Uh,
one of the legends, right? So having the honor and the ability to just cross over the border 15 minutes and train with one of the best that's ever existed was, it was quite spectacular. And then I ended up earning the affiliation from him.
yeah.
And for the last 13 years, I was under the Dragon Like system. I earned my red armband, which is crew level
Yeah.
under Métis. And I know I at the same time I've coached multiple fighters. Everything from the A level professional all the way down to the hobbyist. We've had even our clubs have had exposure to fight promotions like Bellator, and we have had a few UFC fighters in our facility, and one was actually on the Ultimate Fighter show,
Mhm.
briefly training in our facility.
Nice.
Um, and then once again, my ability to kind of like travel around, and I only wanted to actually learn from the very best. So that kind of got me into my next level of actually going into shooting into more to coaching.
Yeah.
So prior to opening up a gym, I started traveling around North America and South America to kind of train from the best. I knew that when I opened up something formally, I wanted it to be A level, legit. Just not just my credentials. It's nice to train and nice to train locally, but I always wanted to have that ability to say, I had coaching from the elite. So during my tenure, owning these gyms, I made a connection with American Top Team, Coconut Creek.
Yes.
In 2010, I struck up a friendship with Mike Brown and Dustin Poirier. To this day, which we're still friends. When Dustin wins a fight, I can text him, and he'll text me back. Actually, it's funny because somebody that's on that level, I don't text back that quick. You know what I mean? So he's just a really rooted guy and
Mm-hmm.
really grounded, and he remembers where he came from. And even a little guy like me, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you're nice to people, right? So
Yeah.
I started training under those guys, and since 2010, I've had generally, except for the last year or two, yearly exposure to training camps at American Top Team, generally under Mike Brown, but also Dustin. In 2019, when I opened up my second gym, Dustin came down during the Khabib fight
Mm-hmm.
with the belt for me for a local cancer charity called Fight Like Mason.
Yes. Yes.
Um, he was gracious. This is during the middle of his Khabib camp. He
Mm-hmm.
comes down and he does. I mean, that's online. If you go
I
to
want to
Honey
touch on
Badger's
that some
site,
more later, actually. So,
yeah, for sure.
yeah,
But yeah, anyways, I kind of like I babble on sometimes,
no,
but
that's cool. I like it.
it's good. I'm an easy talk, right? But and like I said, I've had exposure to other gyms, West Coast, East Coast. I have a lot of friends in Las Vegas. A guy I train very closely under when I go there, Jerry Shapiro, who
Mm-hmm.
was the main jujitsu guy for Syndicate MMA in Las Vegas, who was trained. Well, I think they have Roxanne Modafferi under in their roster there, and a few other guys. But
Yeah.
he was also the coach on the last season of The Ultimate Fighter.
Ultimate Fighter. Okay.
So yeah, so this guy's like highly credentialed. That's
Yeah.
a very good friend of mine. That's who I train with in Vegas. It was originally called Cobra Kai Jiu Jitsu. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
kind of what
Wow.
attracted
Really?
me. Yeah, and I was kind of shocked that they had that name. It turned out to be more a curse than a blessing. From
Ah.
yes, yeah. I this is just I'm the story that kind of I heard is that they had the rights to it, and but they didn't have United States wide. And then
Ah.
when they relaunched Cobra Kai, they started looking into things, and they've changed. I think it's called the 702 Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
Um, but they're great gym, great gym. But actually, it's the Cobra Kai thing that how I met Jerry,
Ah.
right? So that's a great gym though, both of them, and I believe Jerry's moved from Syndicate now, and he's opening up his own place in Vegas. So,
So to dial
but that kind of
back a
gives you a
little
little bit
bit,
of background a bit.
of course. So to dial back a little bit, I want to kind of touch on your trainings at the different styles. So you started with Ishinyu Karate,
Yes.
K1.
Yes.
What is the training like? Like it's the first time I've heard these two combined. I know Ishinyu Karate, I know K1 based
Right.
kickboxing. What is
Yeah.
the difference as opposed to maybe a Shotokan karate or another style of karate?
So basically, if you look at the K1 competition, kind of biomechanics, and you look at full contact karate, there's going to be a lot of similarities. There's going to be a lot of differences.
Yeah.
What I tried to do is I tried to remove the pieces that I didn't think would work, and I added the pieces that I thought would work. I think the um, I'd say the ground roots Ishinru I learned not the old traditional style, but
Ah.
the more the hardcore, leg kicks, the stop drop,
Mhm.
chest protectors, the old school stuff. That's what I was used to. I wasn't a big fan of the top end, so
Mhm.
I did learn from boxers early on. So I developed more of an American style boxing with the power of um, there is a lot of power in Ishinru kicks.
Yeah, yeah.
So I know it was kind of like it was a fusion at the time. It was more of a mixed martial arts striking style that I developed myself with the exposure of the people that I had around me, right? So um, I wasn't fighting Kyokushin
Mhm, mhm.
style or anything like that. I was more top end boxing with American style kickboxing, and I added leg kicks to it too. So
It was kind of like you did a Bruce Lee, you absorbed what was useful and you rejected what was useless for you at the time.
yeah,
And you just molded it.
what was available to us in my
Yeah,
city at the time, right? And you got to remember we're talking late '80s
that's
through the
true.
'90s is when I'm talking. I started really training to fight and when I was about 17,
Hmm.
and I fought. pretty heavy till the end of my 20s, and I dabbled in my 30s, and I even fought into my 50s. You know what I
So the
mean? As far as
Mhm.
jujitsu and stuff. So
that molding that you made with the K1 style Ishimi karate, how did it transfer when you eventually had to start Muay Thai?
that was incredibly hard. That was incredibly hard. So that was a complete deconstruction.
Ah,
Um, so obviously, with K1 and stuff like that, it's encouraged to go for the head and that kind of thing. Even where you're kind of like dropping your body and throwing those big cartwheel head kicks
yeah,
and stuff
yeah,
like that. That's the kind of the background that I came from. And then Muay Thai is very centered, very balanced, very I call it the gyro, right?
okay,
So every spaceship has a gyro. That's what keeps its center of gravity, right? Muay Thai has an impeccable ability to maintain that gravity,
true.
right? The way so there's the different types of Muay Thai.
Yeah,
Métis taught me it was called Muay Femur,
Muay
right?
Thai, the
Which is
kicking.
which is the strategist. You know what I
Ah,
mean? So it's more of a strategic Muay Thai than say
okay,
elbow heavy or knee heavy or kick
kick
heavy,
heavy.
like yeah, some of them. So it was more, precision, accurate, and strategy,
Mhm.
right? A lot of, excuse me, a lot of counterfighting.
Ah,
So, but it's incredibly effective. So having to transfer from a wide stance, sometimes a 12-3 stance for the
yeah,
right
yeah,
side. Um, Having to put everything completely balanced, thinking oh yeah, I have these high kicks. I'm like, well, I'm leaning,
yeah,
right?
true.
So, and it's great in certain distances, but when you're, on that middle distance, inside distance,
Not
it's
gonna
not going to
work.
work for you,
Yeah.
right? So, it was a hard transition, and Métis used to say to me, he's like, it's not wrong, it's just different,
Ah,
right? So he wouldn't hack on my previous skills, but he encouraged me to develop a structured base.
mm,
I call it, if mixed martial arts is a giant wheel with spokes,
mhm.
I believe Muay Thai is the center of balance,
Ah,
right? With when you're 12-2 with your feet, or 12-10 if you're a lefty, um, you have the ability to shoot in for any type of grappling.
yeah,
A lot of side stancing styles, you have to switch your feet to shoot,
that's true.
right? Right. So this kind of gives you that hub, and it's a balanced hub. You can move forward, backward, side, circle, shoot, sprawl, back, break, fall. You can do so many things from that center of balance, and
Mhm.
that's why I call it the gyro. Métis
Ah,
calls it something different, but that's kind of what I go with. So
yeah, that's awesome. The fact that you were able to adapt, mold it, and find how you could utilize it in other spaces. But you
yeah,
also, being a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I want to know a little bit about your lineage and how the training
yeah.
compares with what you did in Muay Thai.
Like I said, when I was fighting, I ran into a couple grapplers that, give me a bit of a incredibly hard time.
Ah,
Um, it was almost scarring. So I said, I have to learn this stuff. So in 2010, I started under a place called the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu Academy of Windsor,
yes.
under a Kaiki Jiu-Jitsu affiliation. My professor was Jeff Robert. He was the Detroit police officer. Eventually, ended up becoming my business partner.
Ah,
He found out that I had a kickboxing background, and that's kind of how that kind of melted out. Um, but yeah, I trained under him since 2000, the beginning of 2010. Um, just going through, I think it was 2013 for my blue belt,
mhm.
end of 2015 for my purple, 2019 for my brown, and then I received my black belt in Rio de Janeiro at the end of 2024,
Wow.
by Professor Pat Cooligan. In my brown belt training, during my brown belt level near the end, me and my business partner had some differences as far as where he wanted to go and where I wanted to go, so
Yeah.
we decided it was better off just to kind of go our own ways, amicably. And I I left the Kaiki affiliation, and I ended up going to through a referral from a good friend that lives up north in Sudbury, the Henzo Gracie affiliation under Pat
Yeah.
Gooligan, which is amazing affiliation. Called the OAMA, the Ottawa Association of Martial Artists,
Okay.
also the Orlando Association of Martial Artists, which Pat is now an American citizen, and he lives in Orlando and runs multiple affiliations. And like even like the connections this guy has is just next level, just next level. For instance, I mean, like my black belt promotion was really a make a wish. I mean, if I couldn't, you couldn't have dreamed up a better.
Wow.
So I got invited to Rio de Janeiro. I got my black belt by Pat Cooligan, also by kind of co-given to me by the guy who owned the academy there, Tachi Jordan.
Mhm.
Um, he's like been a Henzo affiliate for quite a long time. He runs his own affiliation, but him and Henzo, I didn't know how close they were because after I got my black belt, when I was rolling with some of their guys, I got arm barred and I got injured, right?
Ah.
So I was in the back, and Tachi came in, and he's like, Henzo's like a family friend. He's like, 1 second. And he comes back, and my fiance was there, and he pulled up on FaceTime Henzo Gracie, um, in his apartment, right? Congratulating me, right, in Rio de Janeiro. So I got a
Oh.
personal, like, I got kind of like blessed by Henzo Gracie himself from his
Wow.
apartment on FaceTime while I was in Rio de Janeiro getting my black belt.
Wow.
So you can't really dream it up better than that.
No,
So
you can't.
so that's kind of been the lineage. It took me about 15 years to get my jiu-jitsu black belt. And I've just been kind of training and teaching throughout the way. I've competed multiple times at every belt level,
Mm,
and even up to and including world championships. So
nice. That's amazing. And
yeah.
you seem to have built several businesses, clubs, gyms
Mhm.
around um the martial arts styles you learned. What was it
Yes.
like growing, scaling, building martial arts businesses?
That's always interesting, and as a co-gym owner, I'm sure you can appreciate some of the challenges and difficulties. They say that people that own martial arts gyms aren't just coaches and business owners; they're psychologists, they're
Yeah,
counselors, they're what I mean. There's so many hats that you have to wear.
yeah.
I didn't know that when I started, and it's something that I've had to develop a psychology for,
Mhm.
and that's fine because I'm there for people as long as they're good people,
Yeah.
right? It's funny that it's a weird like irony of fate that me and you are friends, right? Just by being me there. So I saw something in your club that we've adopted, right?
Mhm.
You had a little code of conduct on your
Yes,
wall,
yes,
and
yes.
although there's code of conduct everywhere, I found a few of your points quite unique, right?
Really?
So we took a picture of Cindy took a picture of it, and we've kind of incorporated it into our philosophies, right? I
Awesome.
still have to get it formally printed up, but when I quote things, some of the times it's from that list, right?
Ah,
So I believe that within the walls of martial arts, you should have those values, but I don't believe the world generally does,
no.
unfortunately, right?
Unfortunately, yeah.
So I think you just have to learn how to develop a bubble, who's friendly, who's not friendly. You have to, it's almost like you have to develop like you know, an interrogator type of
Yeah, hyper
mentality.
awareness kind of.
Bingo. Yeah. So yeah, that's it. Yeah. So it's hard, and it's hard every single time, especially when you're building new businesses and stuff like
Mhm.
that from scratch and stuff, right? So, um, but it's I think the dealing with the complexity of the different personalities coming in,
That's true.
That's always been the hardest part.
Yeah.
I love this sport. I love everything about it. I think that any reality based martial art has something to offer,
Hmm.
right? When I say reality based martial art, right? Like, I'm not going to hack on certain martial arts, but there's certain ones that, obviously I don't promote. I don't think that would be effective, right?
Yeah.
But I
Yeah.
do think that anything that's been proven or used, not in the cage, because I like yeah, do it in the cage. No, it's not always in the cage,
True.
right? Most of life's defenses happen outside of a cage.
That's true.
That's a very very small percentage. So anything that can be used in a practical urban combat situation,
Hmm.
I think has validity at
Hmm.
any range, as long as it's used in at the appropriate time and the appropriate ranges, right? Like, I'm not going to try place, I'm not going to try and go jab for jab with you, right? You're going to reach me from across the ring, right? So
Yeah.
I got a couple guys that joined my club that are monsters. I'm like, geez, because they're so tall. But, it's just, it's a unique experience, a unique business, but very fulfilling too at the same time, right? When you see that kid, it clicks,
Yeah.
right? Or you see a kid that's depressed and you pull him out of that depression just by him giving him a skill that he's like, wow,
That's
this
true.
actually this works, right? Having been a bullied kid as for most of my life as a child prior to training, um, it's that's the part that really I get behind is helping people and seeing their lives change, because martial arts, it changes people radically,
True.
right? So, but yeah, so it's always interesting, building businesses, and it's very unique, you know what I mean? It's I can't it's really hard to put words on because it's not like any other business, right?
I'm actually extremely happy to hear that some of the principles that I engendered and I utilized for my club that you were able to actually use because
Hmm.
the truth is, at least in my opinion, as you said earlier, since we both have a karate background, me coming from Shotokan karate, you coming from
Hmm.
Ishinryu, I know we had a dojo-kun.
Yeah.
So we had that oath that we have to say in Japanese and English.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring that across to our club because I thought these principles were very important. And
Hmm.
something my BJJ coach Move Steele had said is like he said to me, Volt, the difference between you and any other mixed martial arts location is that you're a martial artist. There's a difference between a
Hmm.
fighter and a martial artist. So
Oh, absolutely.
you bring that these principles and the social development because you're trying to improve the individual, not just your ability at combat. And I think that's where we connected on that level with regards to the principles in the club. And so I actually feel
Absolutely.
very grateful that
Yeah.
you came to St. Lucia, you experienced with us, we met, and apart from just your colors, which I will dabble in a little bit,
Yeah.
you're able to get these principles and incorporate into your club. And
Oh
that's a
yeah.
beautiful thing to me.
Oh, I know. And you were very friendly. You were very gracious. You're a great ambassador to the island. Just right from the get go. You made me feel very comfortable. And that's important. Because just like I represent my area,
True.
which is very hard to promote, because it's industrial and it's like gross. But when you having international people and you have a person like yourself, it really goes a long way, because
Thank
like
you.
every person that I actually, I'll show you before the show is over. I have the St. Lucian flag hung in my
Really?
house. Yes, I do. Yeah, I'll show you. I'll show you. It's a little messy where it is, but yeah, I have the St. Lucian flag. I live on the water. It's very cold, but I live on the
Yeah.
water, and I have a flag there for St. Lucia.
Yeah.
So, but no, it was yes, we definitely did bond on that. Um, I like to say, when you're a kid, you're a kid, you find martial arts, you're a bit of a martial artist, and then you want to be a fighter. And then in teens, you're a fighter. 20s, you're a fighter. 30s, you start to do fighting
Yeah.
and martial arts. 40s, you're a martial artist. 50s, I'm definitely a martial artist.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you can only be a fighter for so long,
That's true.
right? The career, if you really want to go big, I've done it myself. I've put both of my kids through it, specifically my one daughter who's fought in full contact karate, in Muay
Nice.
Thai on an international level, and she also fought as a wrestler for Brock University for the last 3 years, varsity.
Nice.
That's the next generation. So it's been in my blood, right? It's now in her blood. And that's the true martial artist. You don't train for the fight, you train for the fun.
That's true.
Right?
And of course, as a martial artist, you end up training for life.
Well, yes. Like there's so many lessons. There's so many lessons. I think all martial arts have a unique lesson to teach, but none
Mhm.
more than Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Mhm.
The slow strategy that life is, the crawl, you know what I
That's
mean, the
true.
grind, you
That's
know what I
true.
mean. And I had one professor that used to say, when you're grappling with somebody, or you're rolling with somebody, one person has to be uncomfortable,
Hmm.
right?
Hmm.
Like you're not both comfortable and you're not both uncomfortable. One has to be uncomfortable. You have to be the make sure that you're the person that's comfortable, right? So what's the best strategy? What's the best avenue? What's the best angle to become the comfortable person in a bad situation? That doesn't mean punch them, choke
Yeah.
them,
Yeah.
hurt them. It could be, just maneuvering around a bad situation,
Hmm.
right? I do a lot of that. I do a lot of that. um, you know, it's unfortunate. I've had to take some of my views in life because of the exposure to, certain personalities. I just I got to really screen people these days. You know what I'm
Yeah. Yeah.
saying?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I realized I had to actually learn to do the exact same thing by force. But you, being a business person, you would have gone through very many setbacks. Can you give me an example of some of the setbacks you would have gone through and how you overcame them?
yep. Um, so I mean the original I mean the first setback you have is being a small fighter. Like I didn't fight in the UFC,
Hmm.
right? So I had my styles, I had my fights, you know what I mean. I had my exposure. A lot of people don't know this about me, but I'm also a medical professional. I'm a
Yes.
registered respiratory therapist. I've spent
Yes.
30 years working in critical care, trauma, ICU, ER, OR, seeing the worst of the worst. I worked in Detroit for 3 years, so you can imagine what I saw. And it doesn't get much better 5 minutes over the border, is what I always say. You know what I mean? People are very stabby and shooty over here too. So, and I'm sure you can appreciate that.
Oh yeah.
Although you have a beautiful island, and I never heard such a
It
single
has
thing.
its
That's why
times,
one of
trust
the things
me.
with that.
It has its times.
Oh yeah, I know, and like I said, what I'm one thing I'm 100% on is to bring any negative light to that beautiful island,
Yeah.
right? So it's beautiful. I had a great time. I had no issues. It was awesome all around. But that being said, I had a professional job on as well.
Hmm.
I raised my children based off that, but it also gives me a very unique approach on being an owner and a coach. I have medical abilities that people do not have. I have
Yeah.
the ability to guide the team and the fighters. I'm an ex one of my expertise is blood hemodynamics.
Mhm.
Blood hemodynamics in intensive care is fluid management. So fluid
Yeah.
management for fighters is critical.
Critical. Yeah.
So if you're an expert in the body's hemodynamic fluid balance, it makes weight cuts really easy and
Really.
very
Yeah.
safe. Yeah,
Yeah.
very safe for my fighters, right? I have a unique ability to do water cuts that are very safe, that do not have the ability to bring the fighters, overall energy resources down at the time of fight. And more importantly, if most people that are I know I use this word, but I hesitate to use this word, ignorant to the fact of CTE, right? And the less cerebral spinal fluid you have, the more you are prone to CTE,
That's true.
right? So if you don't know much about concussions and encephalopathy. Like I worked 10 years in neurotrauma ICU in Windsor, so I saw very worst head injuries you could possibly see, and I also saw that most of them came out with people having to salvage their organs. Right, they
Hmm.
didn't come
Yeah.
out of it.
Yeah.
right? So once again, CSF hemodynamic monitoring is something that I did every day.
Mhm.
So I have that unique ability to just kind of see inside the brain, so to speak.
Yeah.
A lot of times, when some of the fights that I take my fighters to, I'm more qualified than the medical staff that they have there. Right. Right. So I mean, having all the multiple disciplines I have and a lifetime of medical experience, I think I've looked in Canada and I can't find anybody that has my set.
There aren't many
Right.
people at all that
Right.
actually have that set.
Yeah, see, like I mean, we have lots of in 2 hours from me. There's three of the UFC Hall of Famers running a
Yeah.
school called Adrenaline.
Mhm.
Excellent
Yeah.
school, great fighters. I've trained under a couple of the guys myself. Doing some training trips up there and stuff. Um, but once again, having that medical background, I
Background.
think
Yeah.
it is very unique, and at the very least, it should comfort my fighters.
Mhm. That puts your gym gives you an additional edge because that knowledge means, as you said earlier, you put your fighters in a position where they won't be losing energy, they won't be
Hmm.
losing unnecessary amounts of fluid because, of course, too much fluid, you can't be
Hmm.
completely cognitive, you won't be able to
Hmm.
perform at 100%, and you have that skill and ability to keep your guys at the top and doing their best, and that's what's important in my opinion.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's an amazing skill to have.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I think just in going retrospect back to the question about setbacks.
Yes.
Um, I've obviously have changed my gym. There's I developed two of the largest gyms in southwestern Ontario,
Hmm. Hmm.
which I can't really get into right now. But I was one of the pioneers of mixed martial arts in the area as far as development of programs. There's
Hmm.
a couple really good schools that that one in particular that was here before me, but I would say I'm a hard second on the development of fighter teams in this area as far
Yes.
as mixed martial arts and
It's
Muay Thai
concerned.
specifically. I'm also the first one to bring Muay Thai to Windsor Essex County, and the first one
Nice.
to ever bring a ranked system to Windsor Essex County.
Nice.
And then in my new venture, Honey Badger Muay Thai, that one is actually very close to my heart. I mean, everything about this gym, I'll get into it, but everything about this gym is so personal. It's next level. It really
We'll be
is next
touching that
level.
soon. I will be
Yeah.
grilling you on that soon because I have
All
to
right.
touch
All
you
right.
about the
All
colors. I'm saying about
right.
these colors. But apart from that, all this, the qualifications you do, you're actually involved in quite a few charities. You do quite a
Yes, I
bit of
am.
charity work. I know there's the ones with the Beagles, and I know you do some other stuff. Can you give me some information about the charities you do and the
Mhm.
impact they have?
So one of my main charities that I've done, I developed a program, and in my other gyms was called Lambs to Lions. So being a bully child for majority of my life, as a child, I should say, not majority of my life. As a child, I moved around a lot. I was very small. I was an easy target. There was no such thing as fight. I heard of boxing when I was little, and
Yeah.
but I didn't really know. My parents, nobody was really athletic in my family outside of me. So I didn't really, I just took it. And I did what I could. I was more like, like a rat chewing through things at best. You know what I mean? It didn't really work really well. So, being a bullied child, when I got into this position where I was running gyms, and now I'm a martial arts, and I'm an expert in certain martial arts,
Yeah.
proven by competition. Um, I want to pass this on. I actually, when I first started my first gym, I had a student probably for about 10 or 11 months. Really good kid. And he ended up coming to the gym one night. And I remember I taught it was kind of a reverse choke against the cage,
Hmm. Hmm.
right? So I taught this choke, right? And then I went to work the next night, um, and I worked emergency. and we getting this 18-year-old kid post suicide.
Oh shit.
It turned out to be my student.
Oh.
Okay. So, and I had taught him a choke the night before. So imagine how psychologically messing that was. So apparently he had a lot of his mom. I talked to his mom. I was the respiratory therapist. He was intubated at the time.
Mm.
He was gone. Right. It was VSA, vital signs absent. They bring him to the nearest hospital here, and his neck was in a really bad orientation, right? So, and then obviously it hit me pretty hard. So I talked to the family, and apparently he was a bullied kid, had been bullied for quite a long time, came to me to try and resolve that,
Yeah.
right? Too late, right? Just a little bit too late,
Yeah.
right? Yeah, and that absolutely rocked me, right? So I said, I'm going to do what I can to catch kids early.
Yeah.
If you can catch a kid early, you can prevent that repetitive mental beating that they're going to get.
Yeah.
And then sometimes in teenage years, it's just there's just too much damage done. You know what I mean? It's just been too repetitive for too long. So if I can make a kid at least confident, strong, you know what I mean, able to navigate some of the problems. Social media makes it almost impossible to
Yeah.
navigate fully.
Yeah.
Um, Also, I had done an interview for the our local news a few times, and one of the things that was common in it was, you know, when this stuff happens, it's cumulative, and
Hmm.
eventually it's going to get to a critical mass, and the kid's going to do something uh, inside or outside. It
Yeah.
doesn't always manifest as suicide. You can see shootings in the states, right?
Mhm.
That'll manifest on the outside too,
Yeah.
right? So if you can give these kids some sort of structure, when people you're a business owner, or sorry, you're a mixed martial artist and a martial arts owner with
Yeah.
lots of
Yeah.
students.
Yeah.
You see the kids all the time. You see the impact that it has on those kids.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like you could, that whole quantum thing. If I were to shift this kid into two directions, with me or without me,
Yeah.
how is that going to go down, right? And you see that kid, and he's like, bam, bam. You see, and he goes, oh, they just get excited, right?
Yeah.
I know you've seen that in
Yeah.
children when they light up when they get it,
Yeah.
right? Or they come to me, coach. I went into the situation and I just stood my ground and says, if somebody's going to try and hurt me, I'm going to punch you back, right? Or we do this thing at my gym called the three T's: talk,
Hmm.
tell, tackle,
Yes. Yes.
right? I'm sure you've heard it many times.
Yeah.
It's kind of
Yeah.
a common in jujitsu.
Yeah.
Um, so I mean, we reinforce that heavy, the talk, tell, tackle. But I always say, don't be afraid to tackle, and that doesn't mean tackle. The actual word. It could be a punch, it could be
Yeah.
a kick, it could be a sweep, it could be some sort of defense, so people get their hands off of you, right?
Mhm, mhm.
And when that works for them, once again, that's a huge boost,
Yeah.
right? And then even the exposure, you kids that are misguided. Okay, I won't say there's bad kids. Kids that are misguided congregate,
Mhm,
right?
mhm, mhm.
And those misguided kids promote more misguided actions.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if I can get a kid with a bunch of kids that just want to just like roll around and do fight games, and you know what I mean, and we have little things where give out some stickers and
Mhm.
you know what I mean, whatever it might be. Now their friends are a completely different aggregate, right?
Yeah.
There's a completely different, and now the kids are wanting to. I don't want to go around this dark energy
Yeah.
when I can go over here.
Yeah.
Or I'm in this dark energy. I just have to wait one more hour and mom's going to take me to where the people love me. Right. So that will completely restructure a child's behavior, I believe. I've
Mhm.
watched it happen a few times. I've also watched it happen when you instill it immediately, like my daughter, right? Not that she didn't have problems. She was a teenager. I called them the danger years, 14 to 17,
Yeah.
right? Um, she navigated the danger years. Okay. She watches this, she'll laugh. But she navigated them okay, but she would have navigated them a lot worse without martial arts.
Yeah.
She started to go a little bit south on me, and I told her, I says, well, we can do one of two things. I can start looking at getting you into, looking towards a girls' home, or
Mhm.
we can go train,
Yeah.
right? And I didn't give her the option, and she wanted to train, and then she ended up winning silver medal in world championships,
Nice.
right? So I redirected that as a father, but I think that any good coach doesn't have to be the father. They can just be a positive redirection,
True.
right? The way I try to navigate my life is there's going to be things that are going to bump you into different lanes. Try to get bumped in the right lane.
Yeah.
You know what I
Yeah.
mean? If you can be around people that are going to bump you in the right lane, right? So when the exposure with the kids, as far as them with each other and
Mhm.
friendships and development of good team relations, I think that can absolutely prevent things like suicides and school shootings.
Yeah. And you made a massively good point with regards to creating that structural environment and one of
Hmm.
positivity that
Hmm.
helps them see the other path. Because sometimes they know the other path exists, but they just don't know how
Hmm.
they don't know how to get there, how to navigate it, how to move on to
Hmm.
that path. Because we've also have several kids and we've had instances where they were being bullied and it
Hmm.
changed their mindset. It changed even the way they were acting towards the bully. Not
Hmm.
just being able to defend themselves, but they had more empathy because people think that the martial arts is all about
Yes.
violence, but martial artists are usually anti-violence.
Yes.
And
Absolutely there.
learning how to fight doesn't mean you will fight. It means you want to
Yep.
avoid the fighting because you know now what you can do,
Hmm.
but you now have a
Absolutely can.
better appreciation for somebody else.
Oh yeah, the martial arts is the great filter,
I think so.
right? You I can't tell you how many, and I'm sure you've heard this many times. I'm a undefeated street fighter. I just see red and they
Yeah,
hit the
man.
ground, right?
See red people. See red
The
people.
eye roll. Me and you have identical eye rolls.
Yeah.
Um, I watched one of my students who's actually a good guy now. He's a big dude, right? I watched him get triangled by a 12-year-old girl, right? And that was the most humbling experience of his life, right? And to this day when we talk, or if we we bring up the whole I'll see red thing, first of
Yeah.
all I usually rip on him, because he did say that when he came in, but he'll tell himself, I couldn't have been more wrong.
Yeah.
Like now he's a trained martial, I think he's like purple or brown belt jiu-jitsu now, and
Yeah.
like he's been in the system for a long time, so he knows the realities. But yeah, it was an eye-opening experience for sure.
Another thing we share too, I may be 6 foot to 215 pounds now, but before I was the skinny kid with the big glasses that reminded everybody of Stephen Q. Urkel. And I was being bullied too. And I had
I love
specific
Urkel,
bullies. Yeah,
man.
I had specific bullies where every single semester, every single term, my new pair of glasses would be taped up because somebody punched me in the face, because somebody broke my glass, because somebody threw me down, because somebody had me eating dirt. At the end of the day, I know what bullying is like. And
Oh
that's
yeah.
why it's so important for me to create the environment for development of people, not just for fighting. I mean, our motto at the club is character over technique because we're interested in developing positive humans
Hmm.
as
Hmm.
opposed to awesome fighters. I mean, you'll be able to fight too, but
Yeah, yeah. Oh
it's
yeah, that's a
important.
small percentage. It's a
Yeah,
very small percentage. What do they say? Like 5 to 7% will ever actually enter the ring,
actually,
right?
yes.
Most people are just gonna do it for self defense, exercise. You know what I mean? With the ladies, it's gonna be the whole anti SA.
Yeah, yeah,
Kids
yeah,
going to be anti-bullying,
yeah,
which brings me to what the philosophy of the club that I've opened now is. I've trained competitive teams. I've trained professional fighters. Um, there's a negative part of that too.
yeah,
There's the prima donna syndrome. There's the alpha male squared. You know what I mean?
yeah, yeah,
So I'm shy away from that a bit now. I with the development of this club was more a high end, not I would not say boutique style, but more of a high end club. It's actually on the outskirts of the city, but to appeal more to urban combat,
hmm hmm
right? I'm watching home invade, like in Canada's horrible. We have you if you defend yourself in your own home, we don't have castle law, which
Oh man,
means there's people getting charged for defending their family,
wow.
right? And if you look at the statistics of cities like Toronto, it's actually worse than a lot of U.S. cities as far as home invasions.
Oh,
The police here. the Toronto Police, their directive is to leave your keys by the door. Okay,
Wow.
that's a truth. That's a true thing. I'm not kidding. You can go
Wow.
by all means YouTube it. The commissioner of the Toronto Police says, don't get into a scuffle with them. Just leave your keys by the door.
Oh my
Right.
goodness.
So that's the Canadian way. I don't subscribe to that. Right. Once you cross my threshold, right, I'm not going to say what I'm going to do, but I will tell you it's not going to be good for you.
Yeah, fair
Right.
enough.
So we need to develop that ability to end that situation right there,
Yeah,
right? Or make it so scary for them
that
that
they
they just
avoid.
won't, you know what I mean? They just won't bother,
Mhm.
right? But most of the time, it's going to be just a break in, and nobody's going to know, and you're going to be there, and it's going to be between you and your family.
Yeah.
So for men, what I train men is urban combat,
Hmm.
right? I've trained the Windsor Police Force here. I've trained the Ontario Provincial Police.
Hmm.
I've trained RCMP. I've trained border guards, and I've trained who else? There's the border guards. Oh, and jail, in
Oh,
the
okay.
jail.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, so that's one of the things that I was looking at doing with St. Lucia, right? Was maybe some volunteer helping out your guys there, right? Well, one of the
Mhm.
things I was looking to when I was down there, um, but so I've have a lot of experience with training officers and the use of anti-use of weapons, right? So I've received a lot of combat effective knife training in my years. I think guns are a completely different animal.
Yeah.
I don't any martial artist that says that they have a very effective gun technique, I kind of giggle at them. You know what I mean? That's like saying, my country has a great anti-nuke defense. You know what I mean? It's a distance weapon, dude. And I can shoot you from 50 feet away.
Fair.
Right.
Yeah.
So unless somebody's got a gun pressed to you, you're done.
Yeah.
Right. If they want to pull the trigger, they're gonna pull the trigger. Right. Knives, there's you're gonna my with my students, I say, first of all, if you're confronted with a knife, your job is to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
Right. Just go.
Yeah.
Just don't play the game. If you have no choice, you're going to get cut.
Yeah.
It's a matter of where, right? You just try to minimize the core
Damage.
body
Yeah.
damage, right? And get that weapon somehow. Um, but I do focus a lot on urban combatives in this new club.
Hmm.
I think that's going to be much more effective as far as helping my community.
Hmm.
And like I said, the other two demographics, children and women. Obviously, with women, I follow the Gracie Empowerment
Yeah.
kind
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
structure,
Good
not
program.
their
Yeah.
exact program, because I do think that they have great stuff. I mean, it is the leader in women's anti-SA defense, but
Yeah.
they lack the top end, right?
Ah.
The punches and the kicks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I've developed a program called the SMART program, which is Street Smart program, right? Which
Ah.
is Honey Badger Street Smart program. So I incorporate Muay Thai into it.
Nice.
So, but only effective um, evasion techniques. I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah. Yeah.
say to get, you're not going to go like, somebody who's 300 and, 6'3", and you get somebody, 4'11", they're not going to outstrike that situation.
That's true.
Right. Right. So, I mean, you got to go with reality too, right?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
but I have injected some good Muay Thai into our program.
That's very important to do. You
Hmm.
also have, with your experience in emergency care,
Hmm.
I remember seeing that you had a clothing design with emergency-based clothing.
Yes.
How does
Yeah.
that work? And
So,
give me some information about that.
okay. I developed a product called QRS, Quantum Recovery Sportswear. And what it is it's diagnosis specific. So it depends on what problem you may have. So if you have a chronic disease, I've invented a type of clothing that has a QR code on it that goes
Mhm.
to a decision tree algorithm.
Yeah.
So what that is when most even when EMS or sorry when you call 911,
Yeah.
they have a decision tree, right?
Mhm.
So they'll ask you questions, and based off the answers that you give, it will
Mhm.
tell you what to do, right? I worked in critical care, like I said, for many years, and each problem has its own decision tree, and it's very 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 definitive.
Yeah.
Like the care of diabetes, the care of asthma, the care
Mhm.
of epilepsy,
Mhm.
that decision tree is always the same, right? So what I've done is I've incorporated it into the clothing. So if you're wearing my clothing and you have a say you have a heart problem, you would wear my cardiac line, which is
Hmm.
red. It's got few designs and whatever. But we are transitioning just in kind of normal clothing, right? Like just what you're wearing right there would just have a tiny little QR on it,
Yeah, yeah,
right,
yeah,
with our logo. But
yeah.
we have a couple designs right now. But when you scan it with your phone, it's going to bring up the cardiac decision tree. It's going to
Hmm.
tell you how to assess it and what to do from there. At the same time, we have a direct connection to 911. So at any time you can hit 911 and it'll go right to 911. This is never meant to be a predecessor to 911. It's an
Hmm.
adjunct,
Yeah, yeah,
right? So you're still calling 911, but the nice thing about phones is you can use your phone while
it's
you're
true.
talking on the phone.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, um, you know, you may be able to initiate certain therapies and certain things, you know, before 911 can even get involved.
True.
The other thing is, I worked for a hospital near us called Niagara Health System, and I
Hmm.
watched three people in the summer die of bee stings. All three had EpiPens on them. Okay,
Wow.
all three of them could have survived. All three died because of anoxic encephalopathy.
Oh shit.
So basically, the airway cut off.
Hmm.
They lost, oxygen flow to the brain.
They
They
lost.
died on the way to hospital. Had they had the EpiPen, they would have survived at least to have some sort of oxygenation.
Yeah.
Um, Nobody knew. They were found collapsed. Okay. Now, if you would have scanned my allergy clothing, you would have known that they were allergic. One of the things it says right away is look for EpiPen,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
right? So they would have looked. They said, "Oh, this person's they're collapsed because of an allergy." I scanned it. Not only that, it'll tell you how to use the EpiPen,
Out of administer.
right?
Yeah.
Um, so in cardiac, it tells you kind of the guides you through the CPR steps with things like diabetes. It
Hmm.
has do they are it, assessment for diabetes and checking blood sugar, or obviously giving some things, all once again with very 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 wrapped around 911,
Yeah.
right? 911's the go-to. But this is an adjunct. Sometimes also this gives you a when you don't have a telephone signal and you have a Wi-Fi signal,
Hmm.
you can call 911 through our system.
Nice.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that kind of gives you a little bit of a background. I've been working on that more in the background these days. We have some hospitals that are interested. London Health, Sick Kids London, Sick Kids Toronto.
Hmm.
So we are working with that, and I'm developing some other stuff on the side too. I'm always kind of doing something.
Busy
So
like a bee.
always.
But at the end of the day, that's revolutionary because for a lot of these cases, early awareness and early action is what's important. And of course, you call
Absolutely.
911, there is going to be a time between before they even arrive.
Hmm.
And if
Hmm.
persons are around, I mean, the individual that's having shock or having the issue might not be able to actually do anything per se, but the people
Yes.
around,
Hmm.
once they scan the QR code, they'll be able to get the information to start the early care that will bring them to
Yes.
the point, like the three persons that missed it, um,
Hmm.
to at least survive long enough so that the ambulance can come in and do
Yes.
their thing.
It's the chain of survival. It was always what's advanced cardiac life support. There's the called the critical chains of survival. There's certain things that if they're done early, they increase your survival radically. And if you break the chain, then that decreases. Things like, you have a 13% chance of surviving a cardiac event
Mhm.
without defibrillation. You have an 87% chance with defibrillation.
Uh,
So by identifying a cardiac event early, you can defibrillate early and therefore possibly restore, systemic circulation.
Lucian, that's
If you
amazing.
don't know, if you
That is
don't know,
that
right?
that is amazing. That kind of
Thanks, my friend.
technology, that kind of knowledge, that is amazing. I'm just thinking of the application and thinking of how many lives could be saved from doing just that.
Hmm.
And people may see it as
Yeah.
a small step, but it's small steps that matter when you have to actually save
Oh,
someone's life.
absolutely. And it's comfort. It really is comfort for the layman, because when people see somebody collapse, they panic,
Yeah, yeah.
right? This is kind of like a soft blanket for them. It tells you what's wrong, right? It tells you the basic steps, right? There's nothing in here is interventional, which means you have to do anything major to intervene.
Yeah.
It's more a decision tree for you to how, like for asthma, you're going to
Yeah.
look for a puffer. It tells
Mhm.
you how to administer the puffer, right? It's exactly how what 911 is going to do. They're going to
Mhm.
ask you if they have any puffers. Do you see a blue inhaler? Is there a blue rescue inhaler? Yes. Okay, you're going to give 2 to 4 puffs every 5 minutes.
Mhm.
That kind of thing. So if I mean anybody who's listening, or watching this, QRS911.com. That's our website.
Mhm.
You can get more information on it. We're always looking to expand this idea, right? I've let the martial arts kind of supersede my life again. So I am doing this, but like I said, more as a side thing.
Mhm.
I know I want to get back into it. It is trademarked and on all that stuff. So, with right now it's at the primary stages. We just started a Kickstarter. And we're looking for investment to ramp this up a little bit more. But right now we have 16 diagnoses.
Mhm.
You know what I mean, ranging from transplant to asthma to diabetes, epilepsy, cancer care, pretty well and everything has its own color,
Yeah.
right? So the color code goes along. So when you walk up to the person, you see a red QRS shirt, you know they're cardiac,
Yeah.
right? So it's a visual identifier too.
Mhm. Mhm.
So yeah, that was uh, my dad's a mechanical engineer as
Yeah.
by career, and when watching the engineer work, you know what I mean. I think I've adopted some of that skill too,
Yeah.
is the ability to find problems and correct them, not just
Yeah.
bitch about them, right? So
That's
so
awesome.
yeah,
That's awesome.
that's kind of QRS in a nutshell. You'll see it more.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have some hospitals that are interested in promoting it.
Mhm.
So, now I get the Toronto Sick Kids and London Sick Kids behind it.
Mhm.
That'll help propel it forward, and you should see it more in the future.
That's I will look forward for it. I'll definitely look out for it. But now I get,
Oh, I got some stuff for you too.
yeah,
I got some QRS. Yeah, and when I
I
see you
appreciate
next,
that.
I
I
got
would
some
love
stuff.
it. I
Yeah.
would love it. That being said, now I'm interested in dabbling into the course de resistance. You recently opened your new club, Honey Badger.
Yes.
Is it Honey Badger Muay Thai
Yeah. Honey Badger Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu
and
Jitsu, but
Brazilian
the
Jiu-Jitsu?
actual the official name is Honey Badger Muay Thai.
All right. And of course, I see you have the St. Lucian color. So tell us about
Yes.
you coming up with Honey Badger. Elaborate
Mm-hmm.
about it. Why that name? What's up with
Mm-hmm.
the colors, the significance?
Mm-hmm.
Give me some info, bro.
Awesome. So, yeah, like I was saying previously, I did develop the two large. I was the only one to develop a chain of martial arts gyms in our
Hmm.
area.
Hmm.
I had two gyms with I think it was 11 or 12,000 square feet.
Hmm.
And I opened this new one a little bit on the outskirts of the city. But I wasn't going to do that. I was going to exit martial arts
Ah.
completely. Um, like I said, I have a hard time with the culture in some ways.
Ah.
Like I said, I've been doing this for 30 years, and I just think sometimes it brings the wrong people around, right?
Yeah, that's true.
The fight game. You look at, I don't think Tyson saw Don King coming,
Yeah,
right? So you know what I mean. He was just kind of ignorant to what was going on, and he got taken advantage of. I think that happens way too much,
way too
right?
much.
So I was not a fan of the scene
Mm.
anymore. I was going to not only give up martial arts in the area, but I was going to completely vacate the area.
Mm.
I've been in Windsor, Essex County. Outside of 2 years, I went to Winnipeg with my family,
Mm.
which is a province, a couple thousand miles away. But outside of that, I've lived in this area for my entire life. And it's got beautiful parts to it. It's got a lot of great people. It does. The access to the United States is like second to none.
Mhm.
I was able to train with the best in Michigan. I was able to go to school. My university is from, United States.
Mhm.
So I mean, it has a lot of advantages, but I got tired, right? I got tired, and the whole local scene. I mean, you live on an island. I'm sure there's only so
Yeah,
many,
yeah.
so many. so many walls to bounce off, if you know what I
Yeah.
mean. So, um, and I kind of felt like I was on my own island,
Mm.
right? So, I wanted to get out and kind of see the world. I mean, I am older. I worked at the hospital all my life. I'm very close to actual pensionable retirement,
Mm.
right? So most people at my age, they'll find a good rocking chair and a condo in Florida, right? Me, I'm rolling around with 20-year-olds, right? I always say to the parents of my students, I'm like, I don't know what other 50 somethings are doing, but I'm sure it's not this. Um, yeah, I was gonna kind of exit it, and then I thought, well, you know what? I still love martial arts,
Yeah.
so I don't want to give it up. Maybe it's just the people,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So,
Always just the
I
people.
also what's that? Sorry.
It's always just the people.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. So, if once you get to know me, and most people that do get to know me, I have a very California type of personality. Like, dude, that kind of, I got long hair, and you know what I mean. I'm got the surfer type, and
Surfer dude.
there's absolutely, dude. So I kind of got that going. I've had that my whole life, and truth be told, I was born in the wrong spot. I
Ah.
really was. um I say, when God was making me, I said, put me somewhere south, right? And he puts me southern Ontario. You know what I mean? Like, 15 minutes from where I am is the southernmost part of Canada, which
Ah.
actually is quite south of most United States. I'm more
Mm.
south than, I'd say, a third of the United States where we are
Ah, yeah,
positioned
yeah, yeah,
geographically.
yeah.
So our weather isn't horrible. It's not true Canadian weather. It's more
Yeah.
like, think of maybe like, I don't know, like Northern California type
Ah,
of
yeah,
thing,
yeah, yeah.
right? So we actually, if you were to draw the latitude from my house, you'll hit Northern California.
Mm. Mm.
So San Francisco type of weather.
Type of weather.
Um, but still not south enough for me, right? I've spent, every dime that I can go anywhere, I go south, right? I don't like cold at all. I'm the worst Canadian, like, here, right? I absolutely loathe the cold. Um, it's 50 something right now, and I've got a sweater on. You know what I mean? I'm more Saint Lucian than you could possibly believe, my friend. So I wanted to do something martial arts, but I wanted to go south, right? So I researched, different places. I started with the U.S. Virgin Islands, and I said, I want to go and do something where I am doing martial arts, I am teaching martial arts, but it doesn't bind me to being an instructor
Yeah, yeah,
and just a gym. Just not that there's anything wrong with it, but I was over the gym owner thing, right? I want to do something new, something fresh. My professor, Pat Cooligan, he has a travel company where he goes to certain places like Thailand and Rio, and that's how I ended up getting my black belt there. And he brings the teams there, right? So he has a little business, where he does this travel thing. I thought, well, what if I bring people to me,
yeah,
right? I mean, I don't have I'm preaching to the choir. You're a man on one of the most beautiful islands in the world, and you guys have fitness travel
yeah,
training there,
yeah,
right? Already. So, I was looking at that, and I started with the US Virgin Islands, just because, Canada to US, it's kind of like a easy transition. And I started seeing hurricanes.
yeah,
U.S. Virgin
yeah.
Islands is very, they're in the hurricane path. So I did my research, right? And then I said, well, I'm looking at, I want something like that, but I'm really big, like, I'm passionate, fan of volcanic islands.
Yeah, yeah.
Especially, I thought that you guys had the active one there. Like, I
Mhm.
looked at, all the islands around you. St. Lucia was number one though. So, it was St. Lucia, and I can't remember. It was like, I can't remember who. I think it was St. Martin
Okay, yeah,
next,
yeah, yeah, yeah. So nothing will be honest.
and then, I can't remember the next one. Anyway, there was three, but St. Lucia was the first one I looked at. I started talking to your travel people up there,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
or your, kind of like your business people, right?
Mhm.
In the St. Lucian government, how they help businesses start up and whatever. Um, so I reached out to them, and they were very great. They were very awesome. They were very gracious. They helped me with a lot of information.
Mhm.
Um, and so. I decided, well, what if I were to open like something that would allow me to, um, bring people to me in a like complete. It's like Fantasy Island for mixed martial arts.
Mhm,
You know what I
mhm,
mean? Like you guys got probably the most beautiful places I've ever been in my life, if not the most beautiful place I've ever been.
mhm.
And you know, what if I were to create something where I could have bring people to me? At the same time, I also want to become friends with the local people of the
Yeah,
island.
yeah,
I don't want to be that white dude that comes in and tries to steal business, right?
yeah,
That was a big thing for me. Even when we first talked,
yeah,
I have like, I mean, I could stand on. I'm by no means am I wealthy, but I'm okay,
yeah, yeah.
right? I don't need to go invade somebody else's backyard to
Mm,
steal people. That's not was never my intention, right?
true.
It was to go there to bring people to the island, to bring North Americans to the island to do mixed martial arts. I was looking at some property up there, developing like kind of like a little hotel.
Yeah,
I looked at a few places while I was up there. And That was my intention, was to bring North American business to the island,
mhm,
right? I have associations with people like Dustin Poirier
yeah,
and
yeah,
other people like that. So bringing the stars there because I can get them there was also another goal of mine. Exposing the island to some of the people that I might be able to bless the island with to
mhm,
bring. You know what I mean? Seminars and stuff like that. Then there was my charity. I'm always I try to be a charitable guy all the time, right? So, and that doesn't that's not in a negative mean way. What I mean is helping the police. Like I was
yeah,
reaching out to the
yeah,
police and saying, you know
yeah,
what, I'm not trying to take over here, but maybe I could show you a couple things,
yeah,
right? Connecting with people like yourself to help the children of the island, not to teach them, but to maybe some gear or
yeah,
whatever, right? You know
yeah,
what I mean? Some T-shirts and stuff like that, or maybe I could collaborate with you and help you with something. You know what I mean? Like, but always do it through a conduit of making sure that there's a friendship first,
yeah,
so that you know that my intentions are pure,
yeah,
right? And it really was just to make a meager living on the island. Just enough to. I was never looking to be the next Hilton, right? Just 5 or 10 people every maybe week or two, rotate on the island, inject some money into the island. People learn. Then always also the referrals to places to clubs like yours, right?
yeah,
I planned on incorporating that into my design. Was you come in, I teach you a few things, but you buy this package and you go to this club and this club and this club, right? And there
continue,
might be a
yeah,
couple, but I think there's a jujitsu club. There's a few
yeah,
places that I could
yeah,
send people martial arts wise, right?
yeah.
And then you guys make money off of people that might not have went there, you know what I mean? But
Otherwise,
I'm
yeah,
pulling them from North America, right?
yeah,
So that was the goal when I went down there. I met with Minister of Tourism. I met with the Minister of Education and something else. Beautiful people. Everybody in St. Lucia was just absolutely beautiful people. I can't say enough good things. I felt safe everywhere I went. It's the only time I've went to Jamaica, I've went to Barbados, I've been to a bunch of the Caribbean islands. It's the only time I've ever went and actually like I went to a party. Where is it? Trying to think of what part of there. It's just trying to think of what part of the island it is.
to the north
No, it's south.
or south. Okay, okay,
Um,
okay.
what's give me some names of.
We have Dennery, we have
It was with
Cannery,
Lennon, right? It was with
Souffle.
Lennon. So,
Okay, okay, okay.
uh, I don't know. It was a small little town,
Mm-hmm,
right where our hotel was,
mm-hmm.
and I went to like a street. It was like a street party,
Ah,
and people were like, cooking, and
I like
you could
Souffle.
buy drinks on the street,
Mm-hmm.
and there was the beach, and it's the first time I have ever kind of immersed myself in the culture. Because I wanted to live. My intention was to live there,
Yeah,
right? Was so. I wanted to immerse myself in the culture, saying, a, um, you know, do I feel safe, right? And there's places in downtown Windsor I will not go, right? So it had nothing to do with the people or the island. It's just the hairs on the back of my neck,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Just
yeah,
I just, as a martial artist, you got to be careful,
yeah.
right? So, but I feel safer in the amongst St. Lucians than I do downtown of my own city. right? It was an amazing time, dude. It was amazing. I don't drink like ever. I got hammered that night, right? They were just such great people, and the food was great, and I was felt welcomed, and I didn't feel like like the white guy
Yeah,
standing out, right? They
yeah,
made me
yeah.
feel made me feel kind of like I'd been there before,
Hmm.
right? So I thought this is a place for me. So I kind of pushed through.
Hmm.
Then my life fell apart. Um, I like I said, I can't get too much into it,
No
but
problem.
I mean, you more than most people on the entire planet know what I'm talking about.
I know what you're talking about.
Uh, um, but and like I said, I can't thank you enough for being gracious to me during that time
No
too, because it
problem.
was a very, I built this monster of a situation, and then all of a sudden, bang. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah. I know what
and
that's like.
so yes, it's life, right? And
Yeah,
but you guys were there, and it was such a great experience, and it was so much what was needed at the time.
yeah.
So St. Lucia really impacted me. It really impacted me huge. Now I knew that because of my position in life and the direction that I had to go
Hmm.
and the things that were current at the time, I could not I couldn't go there right then,
Yeah,
right? I there's just I had to restructure my life a bit, and it just wasn't the right time, but the pull was still there, right? First thing I did when I got home is I ordered a St. Lucian flag, right? Which, like I said, hangs in my house as we speak, right? When I was there, I bought me in. I mean, it's typical tourist shit, but I bought me in. I got these really nice St. Lucian flag shirts,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
right? I mean, it's very typical tourist, but I loved. I'm like the colors are just out of sight, like, and I've always been red, white, and black guy. Red,
yeah,
white,
yeah,
black, red,
yeah,
white,
yeah,
black,
yeah,
red,
yeah,
white, black, and you can see the colors of the stuff that I gave you, right?
yeah, yeah,
Red,
yeah.
white, black, right? I just wanted to get so far away from that. Those colors now, they're traumatic to me,
I know.
right?
I'll remember not to
So
wear
I
anything
said,
you gave me around you.
it still has love. I just have to kind of like let it settle for a bit, let it
Yeah,
simmer, and
yeah,
then I'll move on. But I said, after 6 months, I said, well, I can't do that because I'm immersed in personal issues.
yeah,
So I have to do something or I'm going to go broke.
yeah,
I'm a respiratory therapist, so I
yeah.
went back to that a bit. Not what I want to do. You know what I mean? I always say do what you have to till you can do what you love.
You want,
And
yeah,
yeah, being a respiratory therapist, I did love it, but the hospital system makes it really ugly. So I was doing what I had to until I could do what I love. Anyway, I came back with an attachment to St. Lucia, and I was looking at redoing another gym because I kind of had to. Um, Also, I've trained a few world champions. One, her name is Jaden Major.
mm-hmm.
She's a very my best friend's daughter.
Yeah,
We weren't best friends at the time. We met. Her and her brother joined. I struck up a friendship with their father, and we're best friends now. Her daughter is next level. You might have saw some of the videos that I put
yeah,
out.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But the girl is next level talented. She was the 2023 IKF World Champion, youngest Muay Thai champion in the history of our area,
Wow,
and also the United States East Coast champion.
nice.
And then everything kind of broke down, right? I was their main coach, and kind of thing. I had to go in a new direction, like I said. That's another reason I went to start up something new, is because
Yeah,
I have as a coach, especially if you have high end fighters, I have an obligation to at least get them to their next step. If I
yeah,
can't do it, then I need to at least join the two hands that can.
yeah,
So, my intention was to, just to get them started and then, kind of go from there. Like I said, my intention was to be a urban combat specialty martial arts, not competitive anymore, because competitive people can be tenacious.
yeah,
Um, so But when I started it, as far as like I said, the colors, St. Lucia rung so deeply to me that when I chose my colors, I absolutely loved. I knew it was going to be. I knew it was going to be those colors before I knew I was going to have a business. I
Nice.
knew that the reason the I mean that doesn't sound possible, but I knew that if my next venture, I would use those colors,
Yeah, yeah,
no matter
yeah,
what it was. If I
yeah,
was doing something medical, it would have been St. Lucia colors, right? So I always like even like I have some tattoos. My tattoos aren't random, right? They have a deep meaning to everything that I do.
yeah,
So the colors have a very deep meaning to them.
yeah.
And in Canada, it's not really a common color code, right? So the reactions I've had are like amazing.
Yeah, it
People
really
love
stands
the
out. It pops.
Oh, it does. It
Yeah,
does. It's just so beautiful. And like even our apparel and stuff like that, it just every you can kind of see like
yeah,
the
it's
look. It's pretty
awesome.
cool. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's. I'll bring you stuff when I come next.
Okay.
Um, absolutely. The colors. That's how they were chose. The honey badger. That was been my fight name since
Ah, okay.
I can remember. Before honey badgers were popular.
Okay.
When I was fighting kickboxing and then transitioning about that time when I was coming out of kickboxing, going into more jujitsu and MMA kind of thing. um, I'm especially as the early white belt, I was a
Mm-hmm.
bit spazzy. You know what I mean? I was a little bit energetic, you could say, and
Mm-hmm.
people would call me like to like fight like a honey badger,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Like you're
yeah.
just like, so that started. I'm like, yeah, I kind of like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I became the honey badger. So that's
Ah.
been my fight name for decade and a half now. And then so we were looking at all kinds of different names, even stuff that I had thought about for the island. There was names that I was thinking about using for the island. I was like, well, how can that transfer over here?
Yeah.
And then my best friend, Jaden's dad, he's like, why don't you just do Honey Badger, dude? Like that's
True.
you know what I mean? And I did Honey Badger Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu as opposed to Honey Badger MMA or
Okay.
using MMA.
Mm-hmm.
I that those three letters they are sour in my mouth as I taste them, right? You know what I mean? I think that those three letters can bring out the absolute worst people to your gym, right? But if you call it combat sports,
That's true.
right? Or you separate the disciplines,
That's true.
right? So that's I teach MMA, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's what I do. But I teach combat sports. If you ask my students, they're gonna laugh when they watch this because they're gonna say, "You said MMA." It's almost taboo in
Yeah.
my gym, right? I also do know my gym is very philosophically against the prima donna. What I
Ah,
mean
yeah,
by
yeah,
that
yeah,
is
yeah.
if you think you're going to be some superstar, please rethink this before coming in my club. You know what I mean? I encourage everybody, and I think everybody can be almost anything they want
That
to
they
be.
want to be. Yeah.
Okay. There's certain people, it's like, okay, if I were to go with that philosophy, I'm gonna do anything I want to. Okay, I want to do hurdles.
Mm.
Okay. I'm not built for hurdles, dude. I found that out in grade school. So, so, maybe I call it a one or a zero. It's like binary. You either do or you don't.
Yeah.
You don't point five, right? So you also got to realize where your limitations are. Work within your body, right? I think anybody can do martial arts. Can anybody do martial arts on a professional level? No.
No. No.
No. I can't play professional NBA. I
Yeah.
know that's not in my future. Right? Right. So, just like, if I want to ask you to crawl through my vents, you ain't getting that small, dude.
Mm.
You can't, you know what I mean? Just physical limitations,
True.
right? I'm sure that you've bumped your head on a lot more things than I have.
Definitely.
I kind of just float under them, you know what I'm
Yeah. That's.
saying? So, but that being said, you got to realize the limitations. So that's another hard philosophy that I've adopted going forward. I was actually joking around with Cindy. I says, when I open my new club, I'm going to put a sign on it right on the front that says, if you think you're going to the UFC, turn and get out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I
Reason
understand.
because is that's everybody's thing, right? Everybody they see this UFC thing, they see this big show, but nobody has the slightest concept of what it
Of what
takes
it
to even
is.
get one millionth of that way. I'm like,
Yeah.
just do the first warm up.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Before you put your eyes on the UFC,
Yeah.
just do the first warm up. get punched in the face once.
Yeah.
That's going to change stuff really
Everything.
quickly,
Yeah.
right? Like I think it's was it Tyson that says, everybody has a plan until they get
You
punched in
get
the
punched in the
face.
face. Yeah.
That's just it. And then the levels, like I'd say, you're the average guy in good training, some good muscle, you might have been able to get yourself in UFC one.
Yeah.
But with these elite multi-fusional trained fighters, it's not mixed martial arts like ground and striking anymore. It's four types of striking, three types of like mid-range stuff like your
Yeah.
your judo and stuff like that, and inside Muay Thai, dirty boxing, and then there's your wrestling, and there's your sambo, and then there's your jiu-jitsu, and then there's what I mean,
It's a
catch
lot.
wrestling,
It's a
and
lot.
it's like now these kids are so, I mean, there's fusions on fusions on fusions. And one of the guys that the clubs that we were affiliated with, Austin Bashi, that kid's 13-0 pro
Mm,
with three titles, and he
wow.
got in the UFC. That's the type of, that's what you have to go against these days. That's,
That's true.
you have to contend to get your contract. You have to go against a 13-0 monster,
Yeah.
right? How many people are going to do that? You know what I mean? So, like, my new club is, leave the delusion at the door. I'll tell you when you might be in that direction,
Exactly.
and it's so far out there that I'm gonna have to hand you off to Dustin and the team,
Yeah.
okay? Because it's beyond my level too, right? To get you ready for a UFC fight, you're gonna
It's
need
different.
multiple coaches from multiple areas,
Yeah.
right? I can get you pro,
Hmm.
but I do have a very strong connection with the ATT Coconut Creek guys,
Hmm.
and I know that if I put the right person in front of them, I could probably at least get them their training camps there, right? So but that's kind of my goal, you know what I mean, with this new thing. It's the honey badger because it's me. The colors are pure St. Lucia. Even the island vibe, right?
Hmm.
Although I mean, my club looks like an MMA club, the way I run it
Yeah. Yeah.
is an
Yeah.
island
The
vibe,
internal culture.
right?
Yeah.
Yes, and I learned that from St. Lucia more than anything. I've been to Jamaica 13 times, and I learned more from the people of St. Lucia in a single trip.
Wow.
Yeah, so it's beautiful. You're blessed to have such a great country and great people around you.
And that's really a huge compliment to the island. But at the end of the day, the fact that you could get that kind of inspiration, it's an honor that we are able to help you with that. So
And my tenure with St. Lucia is not done.
I'm hoping
So
it's
I do
not.
plan on returning. I do plan on returning. Me and Cindy plan on returning, and I'm hoping to, look at future developments with you yourself. Right?
Mhm.
You're a great guy. You're a great connection. We share very close philosophies,
Yeah, very much
and
so.
I would love to introduce Canada more to St. Lucia, and I'd like to be able to help the people of St. Lucia if I could in the future. That being said, I'm a huge, huge, huge supporter. My One of my main charities I support is the Beagle Freedom Project,
Yes.
and anti-research for beagles. But
Mhm.
I get behind all dog rescues,
Ah, okay.
right? And you have Slam there, the
Mhm.
St.
Slap,
Lucian
slap.
Animal Rescue there.
Yeah.
Um, I was starting to try to work with those guys. I was cut
Okay.
short a little bit because I had to leave. But I do, I was able to I was able to feed 13 dogs while I was there.
Okay.
And I do have a connection with trying to help the animals of St. Lucia. So I will be back for martial arts. I will be back to try and help the dogs of St. Lucia.
Mhm.
But most importantly, to kind of like develop a deeper and a closer friendship with yourself.
And I really, really, really appreciate that. I'm looking forward to it.
Me too.
You're
Me too.
most
I
welcome to
can't wait to
come.
come back. I just got to get through. There's a couple
Yeah,
loose
hurdles.
ends I got
Let's
to
call
tie
them
up, and
hurdles.
then once those are tied up, I'll be back. I guarantee it.
So that being said, you mentioned some big names that you've worked with in
Hmm.
combat sports, like Dustin Poirier. What was
Yep.
it like working with him? I mean, for those who know from the UFC about Dustin Poirier, who has been champion so many times, who has fought so many times, challenging for the championship, and who's well known. I think it was BMF as well. He's a
Hmm.
huge name, and I'm sure you've worked with other people as well. But can you give us an idea of what it was like working with him? What kind of training did you do with him?
Hmm.
Just some more information because he's a superstar, and we want to know
Oh
that
yeah,
stuff.
absolutely, absolutely. I have no problem. Dustin, I can say confidently is a pretty good friend of mine. I have a pretty decent line to him. I talk to him after every one of his fights. He's a really core, down to the earth type of guy, more than anybody I've ever met. I've worked with Thiago Alves. I've worked with Tyron Woodley.
Hmm.
I've worked with Joanna. I've worked with obviously Mike Brown, who coaches them all. I've done stuff with Frank Mir in Vegas, Wanderlei Silva in
Hmm.
Vegas. But like I said, this, my exposure to them was limited, right? But I did do training under those guys, and I felt kind of like the superstar vibe, even when I was there, right? So they knew it, right? When I met Dustin, he was surprised I was calling his name. So in 2010, he had just got into the UFC. He was a Strike Force fighter. He was a champion Strike Force fighter. Um, Dustin, if you don't know, came from a very kind of like meager background.
Hmm.
If you look at original pictures of Dustin, you would never peg him as going to be one of the biggest in the world.
Yeah, yeah,
But From Lafayette, Louisiana, just a core good person. Like, I can't tell you, one of the shining lights of the sport.
hmm,
The sport is lucky to have him,
yeah.
because he brings such a grounded goodness. And what I mean by that is, like I said, I met him in 2010. He had just done the movie Fightville
Hmm.
for Netflix. And obviously, I was a little bit starstruck when I was there because I had watched the show, and I'm like, "Hey, Dustin," and he's like, "Ah." So we chit chatted a little bit, and then I ended up getting him for some privates that training trip. So we kind of like talked a little bit, and we bonded a little bit. And then in 2011, I went back. He wasn't available, but Mike Brown was, and so I was going down with Mike, and then Mike canceled last minute and said Dustin's going to fill in again. So in 2011, I went down, did another training trip with him, and that's when we started kind of really talking and stuff like that. We hung out a little bit afterwards, after training and stuff like that. But this is when he started his rise a little bit.
Yeah,
So I would go down yearly generally. My ex-wife at the time, or my ex-wife wife at the time, her parents owned a place 10 minutes from Coconut Creek
hmm,
in near Fort Lauderdale. So I was starting to go down at least once a year, sometimes twice a year, do a few days with those guys. I got a little bit, obviously got a little bit closer with Dustin. He started his rise, and you wouldn't know it,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
In 2015, I went down to train with him 4 days before the training that we were supposed to do. He fought Justin Gagey.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
Um, and he had his calf lit up. So if you watch that fight, almost ended up with what was called compartmental syndrome. He
yeah, yeah,
had
yeah,
so much bruising on the inside of his muscle, they almost had to cut him open.
yeah, yeah.
Right. So I'm like, 4 days later, I'm like, realistically, he's not going to show up, right? Like, I wouldn't, right? Who comes hobbling in? Dustin Poirier, right?
Wow.
So he came in for little old me in 2015. Now this is when he's on his big rise. He's starting
Yeah,
to come up, right?
yeah.
Just prior to the first Conor McGregor fight, I believe. Um, but yeah, sorry, just after. But so yeah, so yeah, he ended up coming in and we worked together. Obviously, you don't really realize you're with a superstar when you're
Hmm.
with a superstar, as
That's
long as
true.
they're not acting like a superstar.
That's
You know
true.
what I mean? We used to say to our students, come up to Florida and, you can train with Dustin, right?
Hmm.
And there's been many occasions when I brought students up there, and all the students are always like, oh, you have to be pro. No, anybody, anybody. In fact, he encourages me to bring my students up when I come up, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
So he actually spent most of the time with a kid who is actually, wasn't very good. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, he was trying his hardest. I mean, he was good for him for his abilities, but
Hmm.
you know, Dustin had, other people in front of him, and he still chose to be with the person that needed the most help.
Yeah, yeah,
You know
yeah,
what I
yeah,
mean? This
yeah, yeah, yeah.
superstar. He's always been, like I said, super responsive. When I've taught, when I've texted him or talked to him or call him, there's never been that air of attitude.
Yeah,
I went VIP and kind of like hung out with him during and after the first Connor fight in Vegas. I went MGM at the end, MGM Grand.
yeah,
He lost that fight, and then I ended up having Fat Burger with him afterwards. So I mean, it was a tone down. It was a sad thing, but I was kind of shocked at in Vegas how everybody had Irish flags, so it
yeah,
was kind of weird, right? You got an American boy, and so anyway, but that's before he was something something, right?
yeah, yeah.
And then I was able to train with him a few more times. Like, he's just super 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 grounded guy. In 2019, he during pretty well every time I trained with him, he would say, "Hey, why don't you have us down? Why don't you have us down to Windsor?" Right? And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, I will. I just got to get the club's got to get a little bit bigger, and what I meant, I want to make it worth your while. Then he won the title, the interim title in 2019.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, this is the perfect time. I opened my second location. What better person to bring down than Dustin
That's the
Poirier
boy. Yeah,
for an opening of your gym?
yeah.
Um, because I'm a big fan of charity. When
Mm-hmm.
you attach a name like that to a charity, it brings people and
It
money,
does. Yeah, it does.
right? So I said, why would I just do this under for some reason, sometimes that's my downfall,
Mm-hmm.
is that I always try to look at what can I help while I'm doing this. And sometimes people just take advantage of
Advantage.
that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but in this case, there's a beautiful, awesome charity called Fight Like Mason.
Mm-hmm.
It's based off a young, I believe he was 3 or 4, maybe a little bit older. I can't remember the exact age, but he died of a rare form of brain cancer. So they started a charity down here called Fight Like Mason, which is it's gotten a lot of attention. And I mentioned that to Dustin. He said, "Absolutely, I'll get behind that." So he has his own charity, but for that day, for me, he abandoned that charity. He also brought the title.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So that was very unique. I was the first and only person to ever have the UFC title anywhere in this area. So yeah, so he told me, he goes, I almost forgot it. He was going to get pack up to come. He goes, I almost forgot it. But that's a unique thing to have that around my neck too.
Yeah,
The
yeah, yeah,
actual real belt.
yeah,
People don't realize the weight and value of that thing.
yeah.
It was super heavy, and it was worth 275 insured dollar,
Yeah,
275,000 insured dollars, right?
yeah.
I'm like, how much is that worth? And he's like, oh, about 300 grand. I'm like, holy shit, that's crazy. But like I said, he was gracious enough to come down. He brought the title. Mike Brown, obviously 7 or 8 times Coach of the Year, UFC. He was down. It's I always like to make sure that I mention Mike, because I'm very good close friends with Dustin, but as equal, maybe even more with Mike Brown.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of the one who's got me all the connections that I have. He's the one who's arranged the Dustin thing. He's the one who's arranged all the training with all the other fighters from American Top Team. Without Mike Brown, I wouldn't be able to have done none of this or have any of the connections with the guys that I do now. So my hat's off huge to Mike Brown. Definitely best coach that MMA has ever had.
Never
And
had.
as far as being a coach myself, I aspire to be as good and as technically skilled and just a good person. Like he's always been like just so chill, right? And anybody knows Mike Brown, he's a two-time champion too, featherweight champion.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
He beat what's his name there, Showtime. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah, yeah.
In WEC and in UFC.
Mm-hmm.
So he's quite a special guy too. So both of those guys came down that day, and they did a seminar. So we did a fundraiser to raise money, and then we did a fighters seminar, which was all proceeds went to Fight Like Mason.
Nice.
And then we did a little fundraiser at a local restaurant afterwards, where he came and kind of hung out with everybody and signed some autographs. And that was funny too, because I mean, you get to learn the real side of people, right? And it
Mm-hmm.
was funny
Mm-hmm.
because the guy's from Lafayette, Louisiana, right? This is a little funny story about Dustin. Um, So he came down to where we were right around that July. We have what's called June bugs.
Yeah,
Right
yeah,
now, I'm talking to an island person. I know you have the bugs that I would terrify me, but we got these little annoying bugs around us called fish flies. Right?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
They're because we're in the Great Lakes area. They spawn off the lake and they smell like fish. And there's like they sometimes they have to clear them with bulldozers. There's so many of them. Right? But when they're fresh, they're all on the ground, right? So
Mhm.
when you walk, it's all like the snap,
The
right?
snap.
Then you crush them, right? Dustin goes out to the patio to kind of get some air or whatever, and he comes back in. He's like, "Oh my god!" He's like, "Did you see those things on the ground?" He's like, "That's so gross, dude." I'm like, "You're from Louisiana and you're
You
scared
should
of
be inside.
bugs?"
Yeah.
So it was really funny because he acted kind of was like it was like the childhood, the playful Dustin, right? And even my girlfriend at the time was kind of doing this to the back of his neck and stuff like that. He's like, "Ah!" And then we pulled out with the truck, and you can hear them crushing under the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
tires. And anyway, this is a funny little story. He's just
That's
a
cool.
normal guy, and just even the way he was when he was down here, as far as his anybody can change their personality depending on the location that they're in. Right.
True.
What I mean by that is sometimes the family man superstar may act different when they're out. Right. This was once again showed me his real core values and what a salt of the earth guy was. He's in Windsor, which our area is known for casinos and strippers.
Mhm.
Okay. What he spent his time talking to his daughter, watching Peppa Pig, and talking to his wife,
Wow.
right? The whole time he was down. So I get to see inside a man's life that most people would love to see inside, and he could be doing anything. And
Yeah.
what is he doing? He's playing with his child. Just when you see Dustin, when you follow him online, Parker's a huge part of his life, right?
Mhm.
So um I saw that. And I saw the family man, and I saw the guy who was attached to his daughter while he's away,
Yeah.
right? And no drinking, no drugs, and no gambling. I had him. I put him up at a casino here, right? And we hung out with him for a little bit before they went to bed,
Mhm.
and we took him to the airport the next day. But just like I was shocked. I was really shocked at how somebody at that level can be that good, and
Yeah.
that's all I can
Yeah.
say about the guy. He's an 11 out of 10 person. He
Yeah.
truly is. So and then I've had the exposure with a lot training with a lot of the other guys, but I've never seen that good of a person at that level before, and
Mhm.
still as grounded as he is. Like I said, if I it's not a flex, but if I say, "Hey Dustin," I within 8 hours I'll usually have, "Hey man, how's it going?" I'm a
Mhm.
nobody when it comes to him, right? It really I am, right? So it's just kind of shocking. It's shocking, and it's kind of refreshing to know that there's people out there that are that good at that level, and they remember where they came from, right? So
Yeah, it's important.
that's a little bit of Dustin, but yeah, yeah, he's the one who's I've him and Mike are the ones that I've obviously gotten closest to,
Yeah.
and the team at American Top Team. But
Yeah.
when I go, those are the guys I reach out to. So
And that's cool that you're able to realize that he's so down to earth because they portray a lot of the stars, they portray that, but you don't know if it's real. You don't know if it's an
oh
act.
yeah, no, and that's true. And like I said, the reason I tell the story about us, we were taking him from the casino where the hotel was to our gym, and just he's in the back seat, and I'm just watching what he's doing, right? And he's giggling, and he's like watching Peppa Pig with his daughter, right? And they're talking back and forth. I'm like, this guy could be doing anything,
Anything. Yeah.
anything, and he's attached to his phone with his daughter and his wife. You know what I mean? He's in a place where nobody knows him. He could be
Yeah.
doing anything. I will tell you, I mean, undisclosed, I've partied with or not partied, I've took out a few other I took out a few other UFC stars, or like I have a very close friend of mine who's a big TV star in the United
Mhm.
States, on General Hospital. Once again, another really, really salt of the earth guy, um, and grounded, great guy. Another person that at that level, his name's Don L. Turner.
Yeah, yeah,
He's
yeah.
Curtis Ashford on General Hospital.
Mhm.
I've known him for about 10 years. I'm waiting for my invitation, but I'm going to be his best man in his wedding.
Yeah.
And once again, people at that level can be that good,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So have had exposure to a couple people, but I will tell you, outside of those two, it's generally a negative outlook,
Yeah.
right? But those two give me a little bit of faith. Dustin and Donnell give me
Yeah.
faith that you can be at a high level, and that way, who knows? You never know when your star may shine or not. If I were to ever get to that level in anything, my goal is will to always be grounded right in fact below where I am right now. You should the
Mhm.
more the more you have, the more humble you should be,
Yeah, I agree.
right? And that's kind of my philosophy, and some people don't like it, but oh well.
I agree with that philosophy, to be honest. And as we come to the close of the our interview, because I really enjoyed chatting with you. Honestly, I
You
could go
too,
on all
man.
day with this. We could do this
Yeah,
all
me
day.
too. Me too.
What could you say to somebody who wants to try martial arts for the first time, and give us some more information about your programs and the stuff,
Hmm.
what you teach at Honey
Hmm.
Badger Muay Thai and MMA. And sorry, and
So,
BJJ.
I always say to people that are coming in or thinking about it, you have to cross that threshold. Okay. Once again, that whole mentality of I want to be in UFC. So they say the law of averages that I've looked into is that 1 in 10 million people will try a martial art.
Yeah, yeah.
Of that 10 million people, 1 in a million of those will actually do some sort of sparring.
Hmm. Hmm.
Of that, 1 in a million of those will actually compete on an amateur level.
Hmm.
Of those, 1 in a million of those will go to a professional level, and 1 in a million of those will actually attain a championship,
Yeah,
right? So for you to even go the exponents that you have to go through to get to that level, start with getting on the mat,
yeah,
right? That's the first thing you have to do.
yeah.
So, what I say with getting on the mat, you don't just jump on any mat. Do your research,
Hmm.
right? There's it's like, what do they say? A cheap tattoo isn't good and a good tattoo isn't cheap.
Cheap, yeah.
Right? So, you have to find, not that you're looking for expensive people, but you're looking for somebody who can actually justify what they're teaching you with some sort of, not even like a credential, because like you can go to Thailand and some of these guys never been credentialed before, whoop
Hmm.
everybody's ass,
That's true.
right? Can you back this up
Yeah.
somehow, right? And coaching and coaches that spar with their students, coaches that sometimes you get too old. Like I got a guy who's 205. He's built like you, dude. He's an absolute monster, and he's like, yesterday he's like, coach, you want to spar? I'm like, dude, I'm you're 205 and you're an absolute elite beast. Okay. You know what I mean? And I work with him a little bit, but it's just a mess, right? But that instills confidence, even at any
Yeah,
level.
yeah.
He's a heavyweight prospect. Was probably one of the best I've seen in years,
Hmm.
and he's with a 54-year-old bantamweight. You know what I mean? So you know that's got to build some respect,
Yeah,
right?
definitely.
So
Yeah.
I try to still work with my guys, but I always roll with my guys, right? Striking's a little bit different. If I'm sparring with you, it's going to be a bad day for me, regardless. You know what I mean? Even with all my stuff, like, oh, you got this and this and this and this, dude, you're built like a beast, right? In the best possible way. You know what I mean? I don't mean that in negative way. I mean like you built like a fighter, right?
Yes.
Um, but if I meet with you, you know what I mean, and we do a little sparring together, a little bit of rolling, even if it doesn't turn out good for me, we're friends, and
Yeah,
that's what it's
yeah.
about,
That's what
right?
it's about. Yeah.
And I've gained respect because it's like, hey, this 5'5", 145 pound 50-year-old wants to at least roll with me,
Yeah,
right?
that's
it,
yeah.
it, it garners some respect.
Yeah.
So do your research, find reputable coaches. And some coaches, like probably the best wrestling coach I've ever seen is my daughter's wrestling coach for Brock University. I think they got 5 national championships back to back. He doesn't He'll throw them here and there, but he's even older than me, and he doesn't look like he's in good, like he looks old, right? But you can see that he still wrestles a little
Hmm.
bit, but he's pure coaching,
Yeah, yeah,
right? I don't expect him to start rolling with those guys, right? Even though he does throw them around sometimes, but be able to back up what you claim, right? Um, so finding reputable coaches. There's this business breeds, um, I don't know, false
yeah,
people. I guess
yeah,
I don't know. I don't
yeah.
know. I hate to use the other words, but
I'll
it's
say
just
non-gen. It breeds non-genuine people.
non-genuine. I love your vocabulary. It's great. Yes, the non-genuines out there. And unfortunately, I always say to people that are coming into the sport that know nothing about it, they have two possible exposures:
Mhm.
UFC and Cobra Kai.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
so both very bad,
yeah,
right? UFC, everybody thinks they're going to go thrown to the ground, have their head mashed out. Cobra Kai, they think they're going to walk in and get a black belt,
yeah,
right? So horrible, horrible examples. But most soccer moms would put in their kids in, or maybe their teenagers in, or maybe even a teenager that's all they're exposed to has been 2 seasons of Cobra Kai,
yeah.
right? So you walk in, and um, it's education.
Mhm.
So people that are going into this or thinking about it, I highly recommend you do your research on the martial arts that you are going to go into. That being said, make sure they are reality based.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I hate to rip on Aikido, but I'm gonna. Okay. I just hate to do it. Okay. Does it have some flowy abilities? There's actually there's ways that I approach clinching and underhooks that are very reminiscent of
Yeah,
Aikido techniques,
yeah.
right? But by itself, right? Not gonna happen, right? I can take my one of my 3 week white belts in jujitsu. They'll have you choked out really quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
So, reality based. Is it a reality based martial art? Do they have legitimacy? They don't have to be world champions because most people do not have the ability to get to Dustin's,
That's true.
right? That you know what I mean? And that was just luck on my side. And even most of my training wasn't with those guys.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I did it as much as I could when I could, so that I have that training and I have that accreditation that I can say, yes, I did train under these guys legitimately and for many, many years. But most people only have the exposure of the abilities that are around them,
Hmm.
right? And as long as those are abilities are legit and they can, you know what I mean, they can, you know, demonstrate the reality base to the martial art,
Hmm.
then I'm 100% behind it, right? A lot of people are like they rip on Taekwondo all the time. Well, Anthony Pettis was Taekwondo, dude.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. He was.
Okay, and he knocked a lot of fucking people out. Or sorry, a
Yeah,
lot of people out. Pardon my
yeah.
language. He knocked out a lot of people. What's his name there? This is Super Kicks. What's his name?
Bill
Damn.
Wallace?
No, no, no. That's not who I'm thinking about.
Or maybe
UFC. Uh,
Wonder Boy
Taekwondo
was tough.
guy.
Karate. Oh, Taekwondo. We got a
Oh
few.
man.
Wasn't MVP? Wasn't MVP in Taekwondo?
Well, yeah, yeah. He's a white dude though. I can't. His name is slipping me right
Oh,
now. Um, but anyway, there's actually majority of your UFC guys have a karate. The
karate.
top end guys have karate base, right?
Yeah,
You have Anderson Silva, Shotokan. You have Lyoto Machida. I believe he was Shotokan too.
yeah. He was from
Um, um,
GSP.
Michael Page,
Yeah,
yeah, GSP, Kyokushin,
yeah.
right? So they all, I mean, um, it has karate has a mass legit side to it. Taekwondo has a look at the old Korean military,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
They weren't breaking boards, dude. They were
That's true.
breaking necks,
That's true.
right? So, the cores of the martial arts. Unfortunately, the fast food society has gotten a hold of this,
Hmm.
and it's a belt generator half the time, right? And it's a money machine. That's
An
another thing. So,
ego polisher.
oh yeah, oh yeah. So that's another thing. Look at people. Make sure what you're being charged for,
Yeah,
right? There's ways to sniff out a money machine,
yeah.
right? Different styles do different things, so I'm not going to rip on any, or I'm not going to, really comment, but just make sure that, you know, have the skills behind the ranks that they're holding,
Hmm.
right? You go into you're a blue belt, and you go into a tournament and you get eliminated, right, in a spectacular way, you might want to rethink that blue belt, right? I mean, if you get beat, you get beat. But you walk in there 7 seconds later, somebody's freaking, armbarred you
Yeah, that's a
from mount,
problem.
right?
Yeah.
Takedown, hop mount, armbar, right? That happens to you, you might want to reconsider,
Yeah, yeah,
the training. So yeah, reality based martial arts, a little bit about the coaches, and just get on the mat once you've done your research. Because I hate when a lot of times I'll get students. I've got I've gotten a bunch of students in the last few years who came from other styles, um, with a false sense of security.
yeah,
Okay. I had one girl come in and she was a second degree black belt, and I put Jaden against her, who Jaden had at the time about a year, and Jaden beat her up so bad. Right, within 30 seconds, I had to pull them apart because she was just getting absolutely just destroyed. Right, and I'm like, this is just second degree black belt. I don't know where this one came from, but you might want to give it back. Right, you might want to give it back because it's Amazon. So, and I, one thing my medical training has been able to do is I dealt with critical care. I dealt with dying people in the worst possible ways my whole career. If somebody's family member is dying, I don't walk up to them and say, everything's going to be okay.
yeah,
Okay. I have to tell you, your family member is going to die. Are we going to make it as comfortable as possible? Am I going to be as loving as possible to your family? Absolutely. But I'm going to tell you it's going to happen and there's nothing that's going to stop it. Right. You have to have that same type of attitude with your students. Right. Um, you have to make sure that they're based in reality,
reality. Yeah,
right? So I'm very, very, very candid with my students when it comes to the reality of martial arts. You know what I mean? I got a couple people that are training under me right now that are pushing for me to have them fight. Right? I had them do sparring not too long ago. They didn't do so good. Right? I'm like, well, this is what's going to happen. This is your buddy
mhm,
too, right? So, um, come in, get on the mats at the reality of where you are in life right now, right? Have goals, yes. I'm going to join martial arts. I want to try and get a blue belt, or I'm going to join martial arts. I want to learn to defend myself. You get on the mats, you get that blue belt. Oh, I want a purple belt. Oh, I want to try amateur competition. You
yeah,
get
yeah,
that
yeah,
purple belt, you get the amateur competition. Oh, I want to go up. Or, I did an amateur competition and I got elbowed in the mouth and I don't like it anymore, right? And then you just go back down a bit,
yeah,
you
yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
But finding yourself a proper path to a legitimate school, and most importantly of all of it, find a good group.
Yeah.
I would rather have um mediocre, on the end when we're talking on the Dustin scale, okay? I would rather have mediocre coaches and a great group than a great group with assholes around me.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
You know what I mean? And I watching the dynamics at a place like American Top Team, and you have Colby Covington and Dustin Poirier who hate each other, and they're in the same gym, right? And you watch that dynamic on the highest scale, and I'm like, I don't want that here,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah,
And
yeah.
unfortunately, it's evolved in some of my other places, unfortunately. But to each their own. This is why I'm very careful on how I'm evolving this particular club.
Mhm,
So I say I'm keeping everything very close to my heart. If you look at my coaching staff,
mhm.
it's my fiance who's a Muay Thai teacher, Jaden who's a world champion. I have a brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu who's been around since the '90s. I have another brown belt in Jiu-Jitsu who's been doing it for about 13 or 14 years. As far as the Muay Thai coaching, I do most of it. But the people that are near me are super close. I know that given if I leave the room, they have my back,
Yeah,
right? So, and that's what you as a leader, you a leader, if you've ever seen that thing, a leader helps pull the cart. They
yeah,
don't sit in the cart and point forward. They help pull the cart.
yeah.
That being said, when the cart starts going, you can't have the people around you hop on the cart and stab you in the back, right? So you got to make sure the people pulling with you are pulling for the right reasons in the right direction.
That's true.
And the same goal as you. And that's what I've done with this gym. I've made everything so personal that I have a force field. You can't get in.
Yeah.
If somebody tries to walk through my doors, and if they ever watch this and they know who they are, don't. Okay. Because I won't let you in, right? I
Mhm.
don't love. I loathe negative energy. I I I feed off of positive energy. I won't let anything in my doors, anything less.
And that
So,
sounds like you have created an awesome environment for development and
hmm.
growth. So drop us the plug, give us the information. What's the Instagram? What's the Facebook? What's the TikTok? Let's know how we can contact you, what you offer, what your classes are. Do you do kids? Do you do self-defense? Do you do women's only? Let's go. We want to know.
Okay, that's awesome. So it's Honey Badger Muay Thai and Brazilian Jiu Jitsu. HB Muay Thai .com. You can find us on Instagram, TikTok, and Instagram, TikTok,
Facebook?
YouTube. I think that's it.
I think you're on Facebook,
Even
no?
Oh yeah, Facebook. Yeah,
Yeah, you're
Facebook.
on
Yeah, Facebook. I'm
Facebook.
all over Facebook. As far as the addresses, I can't remember. Just type in Honey Badger Muay Thai. We're in Essex, Ontario, near Windsor, Windsor, Ontario,
Yeah.
just over the border from Detroit. Any of people that are listening from Michigan, it's just a hop and skip into Canada. We still love you over here, U.S. We want our U.S. people back. Yeah, but yeah, we do Muay Thai, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Like I said, I do, yeah, fuse in some karate applications.
Yeah, yeah.
We do a lot of work with our local boxing clubs, Border City Boxing. Some of our guys train with Border City Boxing. But yeah, we focus adults, kids, women, children, and we teach the combatives,
Yes, yes,
urban
yes.
combat. Yeah, that's kind of the whole plug.
You have something for everyone.
Oh yeah, we have something. We do women's empowerment programs, although it's not called that because
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
trademark, i.e., Gracie.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, but we do women's programs. We do a lot of programs with the community. I do want to shout out Beagle Freedom Project, which
Of
is
course.
one of my main passions, which is raising awareness and money for rescued beagles,
Yes.
so for laboratory beagles. Right now,
Yes.
there's a big push in the United States going on right now. The Ridgeland Farm Beagles, they've had their license pulled. There's still 2,000 beagles that are sitting there, and they're kind of rotting and being kind of tortured in the most possible horrible ways. So
Always, yeah.
I want to put that in the spotlight a little bit. Big fan of the Beagle Rescues and Slam, St. Lucian Animal Rescue. Like I said, I want to start working with you guys again.
Mhm.
A big shout out to the island of St. Lucia, the people of St. Lucia, the government of St. Lucia, and especially Volt.
Oh,
You've been an
appreciate
amazing
you.
man. I can't wait. I promise you, between me and you, I will be back. And like I said, I can't wait to hopefully we can start working together on some projects too.
And we are looking forward to it, Sean. Thank you so much for coming on board. It has been an
No problem.
amazing interview. And of course,
Thank
I'm
you.
gonna keep following what you're doing on the social media platforms to see how you continue to grow and continue to advance your goals
Hmm.
for for martial arts in
Oh,
general.
absolutely. Like I said, I follow you closely too. I'm really I'm happy to see what you're doing. You're doing with the community. You're one of the people that inspires me to do things in my community
I
because,
appreciate it.
without people like us,
It's true.
yeah, it's gonna be it's a rough ride right now in the world, but we
Yeah.
need some bright lights, right? So
That's true. That's true. Thank you so much, and we look
thank you,
forward to
Volt.
seeing you in St. Lucia soon.
Yes, I promise. And where hold on. I got
The flag,
before
St.
we go.
Lucian flag. You has it. Oh, nice, 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 nice. And you have the right colors and everything. That's amazing. That's
So
amazing.
I wear it proudly, buddy. I wear it proudly.
Thank you so much, Sean. Thank you so much.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah.
Have an awesome, awesome day,
You
and
too.
we'll be in
Oh,
touch. Yes. What more?
I'm sure this will be posted so
Of
that I
course.
can kind of share it with my friends and stuff.
Yeah, of course. I'll let you know all the information.
All right, thank you, man. Appreciate
All
it.
right,
And
cool.
bye, St. Lucia. Love you very much.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you could be notified of future videos and interviews. See you guys next time.